Thanks, Chair. Minister, before getting into the detail, can I just echo Deputy McGrath's comments on the process? Getting this at 3:30 today was extremely frustrating. I pulled off my shelf the reports that are relevant to reviewing this so that you can look at differences, you can look at changes, and that's them there. That's the SPU for last year, the medium-term fiscal statement for last year, the various budget and revised budgetary books. Germany, I believe, submitted theirs on the 17th of April, and I think a lot of countries have already submitted their reports. Now, I know this year is a bit of a dry run because we're still in a programme and that country-specific recommendations won't be issued by the Commission based on this SPU. At least that's my understanding. But next year, this SPU is a really important document because the Commission get it. Once it leaves here, the Commission get it. They will issue specific country-specific recommendations. They'll be debated by the European Parliament. They'll go back to the Commission. And then those recommendations are binding. If we miss them, there's sanctions that can now be brought in against us. So were this to happen next year, Chair, the government would be sending out a document which will come back to us with binding recommendations from the Commission without this committee, and more importantly, without the rest of the Oireachtas getting its teeth stuck into it. So, Minister, can I ask, is it your intention that next year there would be sufficient time for Oireachtas debate before this document is sent to the Commission?
Yeah, this document is not being sent to the Commission until this debate is completed. And we'll send it to the Commission tonight or tomorrow morning. We deliberately held it back from the Commission so that we could have this debate. And you're the group that has getting, to put it simply, getting first cut at this. Now, I couldn't bring it to you before I cleared government. And as you know, the Troika is in town. And obviously the Troika had an interest as well. And I brought it to government, and we brought it into you at the first available opportunity. And the shaft or the raft of documents that you held up there was nothing to stop you studying those for the last month and preparing for this, because you knew you were going to have this debate anyway. You didn't have to wait for my speech before you started looking at the documents, which are the material that one would look at anyway. So I don't think you were inhibited in any way whatsoever. Your comparisons with Germany publishing on the 17th, that's their right to do so, but it's our right to publish any time in April. The end of April is the deadline. And you're right to say that this will go to the European Commission, it will be circulated to other European parliaments. I said in my statement there'd be peer review. And there is a whole raft of new fiscal rules coming in for Europe. They won't apply directly to us immediately because we have firmer rules within the programme. But as soon as we're out of the programme, the new fiscal rules would apply. But that's what a fiscal union is about. And that's the way Europe is moving towards a fiscal union and a banking union.
Do you think, Minister, it would be sufficient next year to give this committee 1 hour to debate, no time to the Shannon, no time to the Dáil, and approximately 3 hours to prepare for this document next year?
Well, it depends on the use the committee put their time to. But if they do what you do, and have done in the Dáil on a number of occasions, have a wrangle about process rather than dealing with the document, then it's a waste of time.
Okay, I have to say, I find your attitude absolutely extraordinary to this. This is really important stuff. You talk about a new budgetary process.
Please, Deputy Murphy.
Ask him about it, Deputy.
Deputy Donoghue.
I have to say, Minister, I really do find your attitude extraordinary. I don't understand.
No,
all I'm asking for is comfort that next year
I'll tell you what my attitude is.
We would have time, sufficient time, to look at the document. Of course, I've been looking at these documents for the last 12 months. But as you'll appreciate, what's important for us to understand here is the differences between the various documents here and what you're putting out here. So we know what policy changes are potentially going in here. And I find it extraordinary that you don't believe that this committee and that the Oireachtas should have sufficient time to debate this before you send it out. And by the way, you're not giving us time to debate it. You're showing it to us. This is the document. Look, you have it nicely printed. This is what's going out. This entire committee could say we think this is terrible. And sure, it's going to get sent anyway. So all you're doing is showing it to us and answering a few questions. There's no meaningful input from the committee because you're not going to change a single sentence. I have to say there's plenty of detail I want to get into. But if we don't get the process right, we won't get time to do the review, and we won't get time to get into it. And I must say, I'm genuinely surprised at your response.
Well, at the risk of offending you again, Deputy McGrath made a substantial input, Deputy Doherty made a substantial input, and you started your intervention by a series of accusations. And if we have limited time, I would have thought the best approach was to use the limited time to the best effect possible. Now, I don't know what the timetabling arrangements will be for next year, but this is an initial look at this. There's nothing to stop your group from putting down a private member's bill in the Dáil. There's nothing to stop your group from requesting an economic debate and having additional time. But in the particular month of April we're in, I did my best to give this committee an opportunity to examine this before it's sent to the Commission. And there's another constraint on us as well, that when we send it to the Commission, it goes out to their parliaments and it leaks, as it always does. And there's great offence here that other parliaments had it circulated before you had time to discuss it. So this is why there's an urgency on us. So, you know, there's constraints on all of us. And all I'm saying is, I appreciate your concern, but you should use the time available to the best effect.
Deputy Donny, final.
Thank you. I believe the best effect is giving some meaningful input to this committee and the Dáil in the future, when this document can come back with binding country-specific recommendations. Can I ask, when you compare this document to last year's SPU, there are noticeable changes. For example, current expenditure goes up by about €2.5 billion for this year, for the next year. Capital expenditure falls by about €3 billion. Can I ask why that is?
Well, the current is interest, mostly interest rate increases. The capital is in line with the trajectory over the multi-annual budgets. We always showed that there was going to be an adjustment in the capital spend downward because we thought we could pick it up with off-balance sheet expenditure through other sources, for example, the European Investment Bank, and that's working out.
So why is current expenditure?
Deputy, no, sorry,
Thank you, Chair. When you compare the forecast for 13 and 14 from this SPU to last year's SPU, current expenditure increases by €2.5 billion. Why is that?
Well, one of the principal reasons, as I said, is interest rates. And we have the promissory note first. There was an interest rate holiday cleverly negotiated by our predecessors in office. And that kicked back in. And of course, the interest rate holiday wasn't available. And interest
maybe just sorry, the question just isn't being asked. What I'm comparing is 2013 and 14 from last year's SPU to 2013 and 14 from this year's SPU. So the interest rate holidays were the same. There's no change there. They were already in. Why is current expenditure €2.5 billion higher?
The promissory note with an interest rate holiday is being replaced by exchequer bonds on which interest is chargeable. But the promissory note had this. I mean, I don't want to describe it in adverse terms. It was probably clever negotiation, but it made a difficulty for the incoming government, and it eased the problems of the outgoing government in an election year and the subsequent year.
So I accommodated both of you, so I think I've been fair enough with you, Deputy Donnelly.